Hey guys, welcome back for another video. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you haven't already. In today's video, I'd like to demonstrate for you my process as to how I go about building and penciling and inking one of my comic book pages. As you may know, if you're following me, I have a comic book coming out this summer. So I thought before all the real promotion for it starts, I'd give you a little look-see into what the comic book pages are kind of looking like, how the style's carried out throughout the page itself. You get to see some of the characters, and you'll also get to see my process from start to finish, more or less, and then the final product before it goes back into the computer for bit mapping, if you will. So, stay tuned, and I hope you learned something today. I'll start with the materials that I'm using for this project. I'm drawing on Strathmore Bristol, the 300 series. It is a 100-pound Bristol, relatively a smooth surface, and the materials I'm using on top of it are a mechanical pencil. I'm also using the Hunt 102 Crow Quill inking nib and Speedball India ink, the super black version. For the odd details, I'll be using microns, and to do my panel framing, I'll be using microns. I have the 08 series and the 01 for fine lines. For any whiteout and white cut touch-ups I'm using this Uniball Signo whiteout pen. It's from Japan. You can order them online or from the manufacturer directly. I'm also using this Pascal whiteout brush pen. And for any last minute details, I use white acrylic ink. Okay, so I've already taken the liberty of getting my pencil work for today's project placed onto the Bristol I'll be doing my comic book page on. So it's an 11 by 17 Bristol board, and what I've done is I've designed my page beforehand in Photoshop, and once I have that design, it's technically a pencil drawing. What I'm doing is printing that out, taping it onto my Bristol, and using a lightbox setup to transfer the line art onto my Bristol. And this way I can, it's just a much more simple penciling process. I don't have to do as much thinking in terms of constructing perspective and all this stuff. And I'm getting older, I must say. My back is starting to hurt, so the less time I am arched over my drafting table doing the hard drafting work, which is the penciler's job, I am saving time and saving back spasms while I construct everything in Photoshop. So this is the next stage, I guess, when you're ready to ink your page. So what I've done is I've transferred my line drawing using a mechanical pencil right into the panels that I've traced from my schematics there on Photoshop, to give you an idea of what they look like before I trace them on to the Bristol. Check it out. So I design the work in Photoshop. I get all my line detail and ink drops where I want. I get the general construction of what the page is going to look like, let's say after the bubbles go in, or in this case for the cover where the title and publishing goes. you can see I get enough of a I get enough information and detail in my, you know, pencil sketch, my digital pencil sketch. And I just look at it like it's a schematic in the end. I just have to get that onto the Bristol now and do all the nitty gritty stuff by hand. So I will do a little bit of voiceover, and you are going to, for the next 3 minutes or so, just witness the time lapse of my inking process, and you'll see a portion of that time lapsed, the next portion dropping in the inks, and because I've already introduced you now to the materials I'm using, keep an eye on them. I guess the one thing I didn't mention that I'm using is new. I'll be doing most of my fills for black areas with my Cray pen. It's a refillable brush pen, and all the larger areas I'll just be using a larger paintbrush. I like a chiseled edge one, and I'll be spreading my India ink throughout those big blacked out areas. So sit back and enjoy. Put on some music here. Talk a little bit while we go through this thing. All right. Okay. So I was just testing my nib out, making sure the ink was running nice and smoothly out of it. Little tip while you're here listening and watching: if you want your ink to run well, you have to manage it daily by either diluting it slightly with a bit of water to make sure that it runs out of your nib nice, and or just keep an eye on it to make sure that it still flows well. As you leave ink to settle, it will harden up and change its form. The second it starts to become more dense, it's obviously not going to run through your nib as well. You can see, obviously it's sped up, but I'm going pretty smoothly through the piece at this point. I believe this was 1 complete hour, just this lining video here, time-lapsed, of me going through. So what you want to do is you go through your line drawing and simultaneously chunk out big shapes in your pencil drawing, and then kind of render as you go too. In this case, what I did was a bit of rendering over the line drawing, and now what I'm doing is light boxing and just making sure that all my blacks are in the correct areas. And I as of recently, I like to fill a lot of X's into the black areas that I'm filling so that I don't lose track of what needs to be filled, because sometimes you'll throw down a big black blot and you'll lose your spot in the illustration. So now I'm just going in with the brush pen and filling in all of those black areas. And really at this stage of the page, it's tedious, and there's not a lot of mental going on. It's pretty much autopilot, and you're just lightly holding the brush and dabbing in the areas that need to be filled. At the same time, you're also building up your confidence with the brush and with how the image has to look. You're making a few choices on the fly. I don't know if you can kind of see, but Denton's beard there, where his chin juts out over his collar area, there's a thin light white area I just left in between. Little hints like that, you start to, it's like it becomes part of the inking language, if you will. Anyway, I skipped ahead here just onto the female character, and what I'm doing there is just kind of getting in all the big black areas covered on her character, and then in the very last panel there of the page, I'm going in and filling in the other areas I have indicated. So once that's done, I like to go along the panels and kind of thicken them up, and I'm just testing my nib there in the video, but I like to thicken up the panels, and then I go in with that chisel brush I showed you guys earlier, and it's just another tedious process of filling in the negative space with the India ink. And as you can see, you give it probably 2 passes over an area, after a minute or so of drawing, and it comes out pretty black. So now, mind you, my ink is a little diluted, and it was in order, for it to flow very smooth out of the nib that I used to do all the line work. So if you want your ink to come out super black, just let it sit for a day or so. I'd say 24 hours will do it. That India super black ink, just let it sit in a vial for 24 hours and it'll come out super black if you're obsessing over that, okay? Otherwise, you can do what I'm doing and just do a few multiple passes, and it won't buckle your page or too much, you know. The Bristol's really tough. Anyway, now you can see I'm just going through. I'm about 65% done, and I erased everything there. And then the next process is just adding some texture in behind some of the characters. Because this whole page is centered around this female character's introduction, I wanted to really make her pop off the page. So I'm taking the painstaking half hour of putting in the speed lines behind her. They're not even speed lines per se. They're just there for texture to bring her silhouette and shape really out of the panel. So I'm at this stage probably 80% there, and I was just comparing to the page that came before it. Now I'm going in with my mechanical pencil one last time over top of the original schematic, and I'm just jotting in details that I wasn't confident in hitting the first pass with my lines with the nib. So now I'm going to go do that, and as the video concludes here, I'll just post the final video so you can take a gander. And yeah, thank you for stopping by, and I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something. Feel free to ask me questions in the comments below. Have a great day.